Real quickly, let's run through this new Kimber R7 Mako. They made a true polymer gun, striker fired, and even though it was late to the party, and I have to be honest here, it's got a lot of features, a couple things that really differentiate this gun because it is just like the others. It weighs 19.5 ounces unloaded in this exact same category. It's striker fired just like all the rest, but there are a couple things that it's better. Hey, late to the party is better than not to the party, and that's exactly what Kimber is with its new gun, the R7 Mako. A little backstory on this. Several months ago, I had a buddy who I used to work with at the NRA who went to work for Kimber, and he called me and he said, "Hey JJ, got a new gun you're gonna love. It's wild and crazy and different, and it's awesome from Kimber. You want to look at it and do a review or write a story about it?" And I said, "Sure, what is it?" And he goes, "Well, I could tell you, but I'll have to send you an NDA first." And I said, "Oh, non-disclosure." We sign them all the time in the industry. It's not that big of a deal, but must have been really new and something significant and wild. So I signed it, and I said, "So what do you got?" And he said, "Well, you're gonna be amazed." And don't quote me here, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, "It is a new polymer, striker fired, subcompact, double stack. What do you think?" And I go, "Well, yeah, late to the party, man. The only real surprise here is why didn't Kimber come out with it sooner? I mean, for God's sakes, there's the leader of the pack was 6-hour P365, badass gun. Everybody acknowledges this gun, that it was the one that really turned this trend because it was a micro compact, but they found a way to double stack it, thin the grip so it'll hold 10 rounds or 10 plus 1. Then of course, in comes the bandwagon. Here's Ruger's Max 9. I really love Taurus's, their best handgun ever, potentially, the GX4. There's the Hellcat from Springfield. I could go on, but Kimber decides to show up. Now, I am impressed because from Kimber, I just assumed that the gun would be probably a 45, maybe a 9, but a micro compact in a 1911 style that maybe they double stacked or something like that. But no, they made a true polymer gun, striker fired, and even though it was late to the party, and I have to be honest here, it's got a lot of features that it looked like Kimber just simply sat back and watched everything else play out. They've got mostly the same features, but they've done some of them better than the competition. So that's great. It shoots awesome. There's so many wonderful things about this gun that I'm going to tell you about, but I thought there had to be a catch, right? Kimber's always pretty proud of themselves. They always charge a little bit or a lot more for their guns, but I'll get to that in a minute. But real quickly, let's run through this new Kimber R7 Mako. All right, so starting from the top, you can see it comes like most Kimbers with a case, everything you need, except you can throw away the trigger lock because you only use those if you're in California, and you only use the 10-round magazines if you're in California. Most of these guns come with a 13-round magazine or the 11-rounder. The 13 is extended so you can get that pinky on there, and it just makes that gun feel so much better. I also like this kind of little bird's head style grip there that curves around. That's significant because if this thing was at an angle straight off there, that really increases the surface profile of this thing for carrying however you carry. You don't get the disadvantage of the end of that magazine really sticking out and printing under your shirt. So that's kind of best of both worlds, well thought out. Couple things that really differentiate this gun because it is just like the others. It weighs 19.5 ounces unloaded. That's like 22.7 ounces, but that's with the optic. There are a couple things that it's done better. One, the grip panels. They have really done a good job. You don't need custom stippling or anything else. Now Taurus really concentrated on that too, but as you can see, Taurus's grip stops around here, and it has a little purchase plate for your support hand thumb, but Kimber went the extra mile, and it's really a good grip that you can grip even through sweat and all. It's got a slight little palm swell right there. By the way, this thing is exactly 1 inch maximum overall width, so it's very thin and easy to carry. But look at that, on both sides there's this just great grip where even though it's a little bitty gun that weighs 19.5 ounces, you can really grip this thing good. It just feels like a bigger gun in your hand. That's one thing. The grip, they did a wonderful job. I actually really love the grip angle too. It's somewhere between a Glock and a 1911. So it's not kind of straight up like this. This is my only complaint about the 6 Hour. The grip just to me seems a little bit straight up and down. And to me, I can't, you know, it seems to be sticking up and over my hand. This grip on the R7 Mako is just more streamlined. I just like this angle better, but of course that's completely subjective. You may or may not like it. I happen to think that I can get my hand as close to the bore as possible with this grip, and I really like it. With that really thin beaver tail right there, you can get your hand as high as possible and really control and drive the gun. So moving on to differentiating factors. They have done a great job, Kimber has, with the controls of this gun. By controls, of course, I mean the magazine release button and the slide release button. First of all, it's both totally ambidextrous with no having to reverse or switch the controls, but they've just done a wonderful job on every single Glock I've ever shot. Because I'm a high parallel thumb shooter, I really get aggressive like that. I always hit that slide release button with my thumb inadvertently, and what that does, it slows down your tactical mag changes, because on that last shot I always inadvertently push that and the slide comes home and then I have to rack it again. Well, Kimber has done a wonderful job. I call this the Dr. Is it Mr. or Dr.? I wasn't a Trekkie. I think it's the Mr. Spot brow. You see this little brow that goes up there? That actually kind of hides that mag release button, but it's really weird. If you intend to push this button, it's really easy to push, but if you don't intend to push it, your thumb slides right over it. So they've really done a good job with that. On the exact same token, the mag release button is really big, really oversized, in a great place right there, but you can't really inadvertently push it because there's this well dug out around it that's concave that this button hides in. It's just really well done. If I don't mean to push it, I'm not going to inadvertently, but if I want to, it's just right there. So A++ for the controls. I think the controls are superior to these other guns. So finally, Kimber has solved the sighting dilemma. All these other guns said, should we do optics or should we not do optics? I don't know, maybe let's just do a whole bunch of options. Oh shit, and everybody's confused. Well, kudos, Kimber, because what they did is said, hey guys, everybody's getting optics. The gun comes in 2 versions, either optics ready or optics installed. Optics ready comes with the slide cover, so if you don't want optics, you get the slide cover, forget it's even there. Nice and simple. But it also comes with an optics installed. Now it comes from the factory, as I got this gun with a Crimson Trace, I think it's the CTS 1500, mini reflex, red dot sight. If you're a red dot shooter, great. I, however, because you can see this video that exposes some of the mini red dot's dirty little secrets, I've always been skeptical on a carry gun that I depend on for my livelihood. Because what if, oh, look at this. The first time out of the box, I dropped this at the gas station, shattered the lens, but I can still use it because if you keep both eyes open, I can still see that dot. However, I've always been afraid if I shatter it, I couldn't see, or if I'm out of batteries is the main thing that I couldn't see. I'm working. Can you imagine that? You're at the quick stop or the bank and some jackwagon takes a hostage. It would be a beautiful girl, at least in my mind it would be. Takes a hostage, has a knife to the throat, the whole 9 yards, and you draw your gun and you've got to make the shot of your life, the best shot, and you've got the drop on him because he's looking that way, and you're like, oh God, I can't, my battery's out, should I don't know. I'm just not gonna do that. I'm not gonna put myself in that situation. What I'm getting at is Kimber has solved this dilemma, and it's so simple. What they do, we've known this for years. They finally did it. All they did was put taller sights on this, standard, so you can see, when you pull up, you can see your sights through the glass. And if the glass is broken or it's totally dark, all you have to do is leave both eyes open and you can superimpose. So you have virtually multiple sighting options here. You can co-witness, so you can also tell if your red dot is on or not by looking through the sights. But it just comes up, they're night sights, they're True Glow Pros, awesome sights. Thank you so much, Kimber, for doing that. Solves the sighting dilemma. All these other guns should take note. So really well done. They're just right there, so you can see that's broken, but you can still see through it, superimpose the red dot, or use the irons. Two more things that make this gun significant. So of all the factory striker fired triggers I've ever shot, and that's a whole lot of Glocks, I just put a Timney trigger, you can see that video, on another Glock. Of all the striker fired triggers I've ever shot, and it's really, I don't know how they did it, because it's a Glock style, a modified Glock style trigger mechanism, like all these guns, the striker fired with the paddle safety, but they have just made the best trigger in the business. It is crisp. It is just crazy good. Like, I measured this Taurus and it feels really good, but because they made it a little bit crisper with a sharp reset, but it's still like 6 pounds. The SIG is got the metal trigger, which I like, but it's heavier. The Ruger's heavier. This thing is the best striker fired trigger ever. So here we go. 4.5. 4 pounds, 5 ounces. That's, you know, slightly more than 4 1/4. That's ridiculous for a combat trigger. It's simply the best. Look how short this reset is. And positive, look at this trigger. It just barely moves and it snaps. It's a flat trigger. Great job. And finally, there is one major difference about this gun than these others. For years and years and years, these 9mm automatic pistols have gone to an open top and right side eject, but open top, with the theory that gives more space, that increases the room and decreases the risk for stovepiping and jams. Well, Kimber went the other way. They're kind of back to the old school, you know, Brownings and some of the early automatics that just has the opening on the right. Now, when I looked at that, I was kind of skeptical, because haven't we already been there? Aren't these guns more prone to jamming? Well, first of all, Kimber claims on its website that it does a couple things. They claim that it keeps out, you know, dust and stuff from carrying. I don't know, that could be spin. What I do know is when you quickly crack check, which crack checks are just about a thing of the past now because of the new builds on these guns, that a lot of them you can look in and see without crack checking. But even if you have to rack or have a jam, if you do the thumbs over technique like this, you worry not anymore about pinching your thumb, you know, on the fast re-racks. I like that. Also, this thing is just slick. It comes out of holsters quickly. It's pretty cool, but I was worried, would it have the reliability of these others? Because again, that's why this open top, I suppose, was created. Well, I'm on my 400th round with this. Ammo shortage, people, give me a break. And haven't had a jam yet, so I really don't think that that reliability is gonna be an issue. It's got a little mini light rail right there. It takes down easily. One thing that's different in like a Glock, or most of these guns come apart by, you have to take the whole slide and slide the whole slide off the rails. This thing is real easy, kind of like a Glock. You take some tension off, pull the trigger, but then just about 1/8 of an inch and it comes up and comes apart like that. That's no big deal, but as you can see, it's really Glock style here. That's no big deal, but it's just a little bit different. If anything, maybe a little bit quicker, but back together. They're normally much more expensive, so that was my next question to my friend at Kimber. This thing though retails for $5.99 optics ready. So without the optics, but ready for you to install the optic of your choosing. $5.99. So that means you'll be able to get it somewhere for $500, $550 at retail, which is right in line with some of the top end other guns like the SIG and the Glocks and some of the others. With the optic installed, this Crimson Trace, it's $7.99, which means you'll be able to get it for $700, $725 range. So frankly, that isn't that bad. I mean, I was expecting $1,000, $1,200 for a Kimber. All in all, Kimber did a great job. Now, one thing, so this Crimson Trace, if you get the optics installed, it's the 1500, is the type where it's on all the time if it's covered. So it turns off to say battery life when it's covered. Well, so how does that work when you draw and all? So here's what I recommend. This is a great little holster that Kimber markets. I love these, just simple style with a single clip, so I can just quickly put them wherever I want. I don't have to take off my belt. Take some, this is Spectra spider wire. Yes, the braid that you use for fishing. Why? Because it's stronger than steel, stronger even than Kevlar. But I drilled a little hole in this plastic, tied this on with a polymer fishing knot, and that way put this on the gun. Now, I've been carrying this for weeks now, and I didn't really think I would like this style, but it actually works good. So watch this. The cap is on and the optic is off, but whenever you draw, just like normal, it pulls off, and then that's left dangling there. Now, when you go to reholster, yeah, a little bit, you know, you've got to reach back there and do it, but this isn't for training. This is for go time and emergency. All in all, great effort from Kimber on the R7 Mako. Let's go see how it shoots. My first jam. First jam with this gun. All right, just shot this thing. I gotta say now, I had a little bit of unfair advantage because on most of these guns I test without an optic, but I tested this with and without an optic, and without the optic, it's right there. It's you know, for me, and this is more of a measure of the shooter than the gun, because with the handguns, the ransom rest doesn't even work really well. So testing handguns is such a matter of the shooter because you can't rest them. But for me, I recorded groups with the iron sights of 1.2 inches average across the ammo spectrum with 3 different kinds of ammo. But with the optic, I recorded a couple groups of 0.80 inches at 10 yards. So with that optic, it was more accurate than these without the optic, but that's pretty obvious. It shot awesome. I mean, this handgun just feels like a bigger gun thanks to that grip. Recoil mitigation is good because my hand is so high. With the optic, I really feel like I backed up and I was shooting it at 30 yards I could hit with this. All in all, Kimber, I promise you, I didn't want to like this gun. Over the years, Kimber, I don't know, they've just done some weird things and they're always more expensive, but for the money with this, with everything you want and for how good it feels, I'm sold. I hate to every time I do a video say, this is my favorite now. Be one of those guys. We all know them and we don't like them. But I like this gun. I would really be hard pressed. Mainly I like the grip angle better than the SIG. The trigger is so awesome, it's just easier to shoot. Before you buy a mini compact double stack, you've got to check out this Kimber. Kimber is paying me nothing. They're not a sponsor, but I wish they were. I'm just reporting that this is a heck of a gun, especially for the money that you might think was a little bit more. That's the Kimber R7 Mako. I'm Jeff Johnston. This is BullShooters.